All right, good morning, class. Today we're going to be looking at the difference between independent and dependent events in probability so that we are more accurately and confidently able to distinguish between the two in class. So dependent events are events that are dependent on each other. So the previous outcome influences the current event. So for example, if I have a deck of cards, there's a 1 in 52 chance of whatever card I pull. And then the next time, there will now be a 1 in 51 chance for any of the remaining cards because the previous instance has had an influence on the current one. In my other example, if you've got a bag full of differently coloured marbles and you pick out a green one, there's a 5 in 20 chance of that happening. And then the next time you pull, the chance of you picking out a green marble will be 4 in 19 because the total number of marbles has decreased by 1 and the number of green marbles has also decreased by 1. So those two events have an influence on each other's probabilities. Independent events are events that don't have an impact on each other. So for example, if you roll a dice, there's a 1 in 6 chance of any of the outcomes occurring. Even if you were to roll 5 5s in a row, there's still a 1 in 6 chance that the next number you roll on that dice will be a 5 because the events are completely independent of each other. And if I were to flip a coin, there's a 50% chance of it being heads and a 50% chance of it being tails, in this case heads, and that's always the case. Even if I were to flip 10 coins that all come up heads, the 11th flip would still have a 50% chance of being heads because the events are completely independent of each other. And you might be thinking, but the bag of marbles, that was a dependent event, wasn't it? And that's true, but if you take out the marble and rather than putting it to the side, you put it back into the bag and then you pick another marble out, it's an independent event because the probabilities haven't changed at all and the events are completely independent of each other. So, how do we tell the difference between independent and dependent events in probabilities? We just have to ask ourselves, does the previous result affect the probabilities of the current event? So in our example, when we flipped a coin, did the previous result affect the current event? And did the card drawing, did the previous results affect the current event? Pause here if you'd like to have a go at this on your own. All right, so we found that the previous results did not affect the current event when it came to coin flipping because that is an independent event, but with the card drawing it did, being a dependent event. So now we've got a couple of questions here that you can read through and pause the video and have a go at. And in a couple of seconds, I'll reveal the answers. All right, so we've got the first one is dependent and the second is independent. All right, thank you and have a good weekend.